Now our next step is to decide which pieces that we want to use to make our necklace. Choose your beads and your embellishments, and I like to use a lot of bead caps, and these little rhinestone bead caps are fun to use. And when you're picking out a bead cap, you want to make sure that you're picking out the correct size. You don't want to pick a giant bead cap to go with a tiny little bead, because it's going to look kind of strange sticking out. Just kind of keep in mind, you know, you can kind of, at the store when you're picking out your beads, you can kind of see, you know, what's going to go good with what. Now the first thing I like to do is, when I'm making these houses, I do like to use keys to hang off the bottom. It just kind of, you know, goes with it. A house goes with a key. But I like to kind of fancy them up a little bit by putting some rhinestone jewelry or a rhinestone button on them. So what we're going to do for that is cut off the back of this button with a pair of wire cutters. You're just going to snip that off until it's flat. And then what you can do, once you get that snipped off good, you can take a file, a metal file, and you can run it across the back until you get it nice and flat. And once you've got it flat, you can glue it with E6000 to the key. And I usually do that before I start beading. That way my parts are all ready to go. So you just put a little bit of E6000 on the back. A little dab will do ya. And place that on your key. And you'll set that to the side and let it dry. It'll be dry by the time you get done doing your beading, and you can do your wire wrapping to attach it to the bottom of your bezel. So just going to set that to the side. So I like to put all my beads that I'm going to be using in a little tray, or you know, I've got this little muffin tin that I like to hold them in. It's really easy to pull them out when I need them because the edges are kind of curved. So you're going to need some wire. This is some Parawire by Vintage Natural Brass. It's got kind of a steel color look to it that's going to match the patinaed house that we did very well. So I'm going to show you the beginning steps of doing the wire wrapping. I'm going to cut you a piece of wire. You're going to need a pair of jewelry pliers, and they have the round. They're round. So what we're going to do is start. It's about a quarter of the way down the piece. I'm going to wrap it around like that, all the way, and then you're going to start wrapping it around that piece of wire. I'll finish it up with a flat plier, and then you have your first loop, and you can place your bead on it. So for my first one, I'm going to do a glass bead, a rhinestone center, and another glass bead. So we have our first one, and what we're going to do to finish it is we're going to wrap that around, grab it with your plier, pull it towards you all the way to the bottom, and then you start wrapping it around. plier to finish up the end. And then you have your first wire wrapped piece. Now to start your next one, you cut another piece of wire. This is maybe about 3 inches long. Really just depends on how many beads you're putting on and what size beads you have. Now to do this one, I'm going to loop that on. I'm going to grab about 1/4 of the way down, a little more, maybe 1/3. You've got this on it. You're going to wrap this around, and then you're going to wrap that. You get that out of your way like that by pulling it through to the other side, and then you just wrap. Finish it up with a flat plier. And you have your first connection. Now you're ready for your next bead. I'm going to do a bead cap, a glass bead, and another bead cap. And then I can finish it up by grasping it with the plier, wrap it around. Always hold firmly with your plier. And wrap that around. Finish it up with your flat plier. And there you have your first 2 sections of beads. Now you continue doing that until you have both sides or one continuous strand, as long as you want it. And once you're ready, you're going to do the same thing you did to connect these two to connect it to your piece. So you're going to cut a piece of wire. You're going to run it through. I like to run it through the house first. It just seems to go a little smoother. So we've run it through the jump ring on our house, and we've grabbed it with the plier. We're bending it around till we have that L shape again, and then we wrap just like we did with our beads. We finish it up with the flat plier to bend that little piece down, and there you have your first side. You can either put a bead on this, or you can attach it directly like this. Slide your bead on. Grab it, wrap it around. If you decide you've gotten a little too far away, you can curl it. And you just wrap. You can hold your house out of the way with your hand and use a finger to wrap. You can kind of, in a way, make a bead out of the wire wrapped around. Almost looks like a wire bead. Use your flat plier to finish it up. and then you have attached one side to your house. Now, usually I make the entire chain, and then I'll attach the two ends to the house. But I wanted to show you, how you do the wire wrapping and how you do the house. You just continue doing your wire wrapping, attaching, and you can just do attached beads, or you can do like we did with the house here and make a wire wrapped bead or spacer. Okay. I'll show you how to do a wire wrapped clasp on our next step. Okay, so I finished the beading on my chain and have attached it to the house. What I like to do for the back edge is I like to put a piece of actual chain along that edge. Sometimes the beading can be uncomfortable if it goes all the way around the neck. That's just my preference. So I usually get a piece of chain and attach it to both sides, and I'll make a little clasp out of wire on both sides. Now this chain is really bright silver, and it's not going to match my patinaed house very well, so I'm going to patina the chain as well. And all you do is you go back to your Novocaine Black Patina solution, and this works on most metals, most silver metals, to turn them the dark color. So you're just going to brush down it. Some metals it doesn't work on because they have a certain kind of chemical on them to seal them so that they don't tarnish, but most of them this will work on. And you just kind of brush that on, making sure you get it on both sides of your chain. You just kind of work it in. Make sure you use eye protection, hand protection, and protection on your work surface. You can kind of just dab it so that it goes down inside. Make sure you've got it all over. And this will turn this chain dark to match your house. As you can see, it's starting to turn a nice dark color. It's going to match that house very well. Now that you've got that covered, then you just take a paper towel and you can wipe down it. Put your paper towel up, and you can just wipe down it, pull it through your paper towel. To dry it off, and now your chain is patinaed to match your necklace. Now once this is dry, it's going to be, it'll be safe to wear. And okay, so now I'm going to show you how to do a clasp. So we're going to take a little piece of wire, this is about 4 inches wide, and we're going to bend it completely in half. Try to match your ends the best you can. So we've got that bent in half. I'm going to take a flat plier. I'm going to bend that so that it's as close together as I can get it. You can use our round plier to kind of even it out some. So that is the end. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to bend this end up into a curlicue like this. Very tight. So you see we've done that. And I'm just going to squeeze it. To make it as tight as I can get it. You may have to use your flat plier. Don't squeeze too hard. Okay, now we have the first part, that is the end of the clasp. Take your the widest portion of your plier with that rounded end on this side and bend around. And you can see the hook on the clasp. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to wrap this down like that. You can see it's like that. And then using the smallest portion of your plier, this is going to be the end. I'm going to wrap that up. Like so. Now we're going to cut this end off right here. And we're going to finish bending that around. Now, when we go to attach it to our necklace, we will attach it through this top loop here. Kind of straighten it up if you bend it. So, that is the first clasp. And I will show you on another necklace. See, I made a wire loop for the back end instead of chain, but then you can see the clasps on both sides. And you just slide that up and slide it back down. And then the same on this side, just to make it look nice and even. Okay, so next step is to attach a piece of wire to your hooks that you made so that you can attach it to your chain. And we're going to do a wire wrapping just like we did our beading. We're going to push this through this top loop here that we made. I'm going to wrap it around our wire plier. And we're going to wrap it. Use our flat plier to bend that last end. And then we have our hook, and it's ready to go on the end of our chain. So we're just going to slide that through the chain. We're going to grab it with our jewelry plier. We're going to wrap that around. Like that. We're going to wrap this. Get our hook out of the way here. Wrap that around. Crimp that last end that's hanging down with our flat plier. and then our hook is attached to our chain. Now we do the other end with the other hook. Put it through that top loop that we made. Wrap it around. Finish it off with our flat plier. And we have our other hook. We're going to attach that to the other end of our chain. Wrap it around. Continue wrapping that. And then finish that piece that's sticking out with your flat plier. Now we have our chain with our 2 wires hanging off the end. Now we have to put some loops on the ends of our necklace because these loops are not quite big enough, so we may need to make larger loops. So we're going to cut a little bit of wire. Run it through, and this way I'm going to make some larger loops. So I'm going to take and grab the very end of that wire that I stuck through on the large end, and I'm just going to start twisting. Now when I twist, I want the end of that wire to go back through again, almost like a keychain. Keep twisting. Just make sure the end of that wire goes back through the third loop. Keep wrapping it around by twisting. And then you can cut the excess off. So you've basically made a type of spring, and then you can turn this around and you can curl that little end with your plier. So then you've made a little 3-tiered loop on the end of your wire, or on the end of your chain, excuse me. Try to get it to where you can see it good. And that allows your hooks from your chain to slide down on it, just like that. So now I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. I'm going to cut a piece of wire. I'm going to start it in the end. Start at the very end of the wire with a larger portion of your pliers. going to start making a spring by wrapping. And then when you get to this end, and you have this little end of your wire, you need to make sure it wraps back through the loop of your chain by just curling it in. You can see how that wire is coming back through right here. So you keep twisting, 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 adding a little bit more wire as you go. And then the third round, you make sure the end of that wire comes back through that loop on your chain. Keep twisting, bending your wire. And when you get back around to the other end, where your end's there, then you cut that long end off. And then you have this little end sticking up right here, and you can just take your plier and bend it down just like that. And now you can put your other end of your chain through there, and you have 2 wire clasps that connect to your beaded chain. And the last step is to connect the bottom piece, which is your key that you glued your rhinestone to. And we're going to do this the same way that we did the beading. We're going to cut a piece of wire. This one I like to make a little bit longer so that I can wrap it more. Okay, so we're going to put that through the key. And the key is so large you don't actually have to use your jewelry pliers for this, but wrap it around and then do your wire wrapping. Do your wire wrapping and then use your flat plier to finish bending that little end there. So your key is wire wrapped and ready to string onto your house. Just going to put it through. I'm going to use my jewelry plier just because the house is a little unwieldy at this point. Wrap it around just like we did with our beads. So then we can just continue wrapping this wire around. And then you can finish it up with your flat plier. And there you have the bottom of your necklace ready. So we've completed our necklace. We made our bezel with our textured solder. We poured the ice resin, made our chain, learned some wire wrapping and how to make a clasp out of wire, and altering keys using Patina solution. And hopefully this will have taught you some things that you didn't know, and you will be able to make some really pretty jewelry. And if you have any questions, you are welcome to contact me at any time, any point in the future, and I will be happy to answer any questions that you have. And I'm always here. So have fun, and I hope you enjoyed this class. Thank you.